Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on iBrand Daybreak. So you've heard how the HR handles sexual harassment in the workplace. But here to join us and give insight to this topic and fleshing it up a bit for all of our understanding, we have a human rights advocate in the person of Kate Ibanosi. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you for having me.
There's something pleasant about her disposition, very pleasant and warm. We're so happy to have you on the show today.
Great to be here.
Okay, so I just want to start by understanding why you picked human rights advocacy in the first place.
I wasn't told I was going to talk about myself, but it's okay. I'm the eldest child of my family. And growing up, I have always wanted to protect, maybe because I was the eldest. I always had the instinct of protecting my siblings. And I think that transcended beyond family and just affected the whole of my outlook to life. And while in school, I could not stand anybody being abused. Even if it's a boy that is being talked down at, I always stood up for these people. And while still in the university, at some point, we started an organization, right, for the protection of the African child. But then, you know, after university, you graduate, you go on to look for jobs, and 5-6 years down the line, I decided to go back for a master's program. And in the course of starting a PhD program at the time, I got this opportunity to work with a human rights organization. And so it felt very much like home. Just stepping into that space, even without knowing what the job I applied for entailed, I just felt like, oh, this is my space. And everyone who found out I took that job just felt, oh, finally you have gone back to where
what
you belong.
You want to do.
My schoolmates, my classmates, everybody said, but that's who you have always been. You always wanted to speak for people who you felt were being looked down on or downtrodden. And so I would say human rights advocacy actually chose me. I only am playing the parts.
I love
now,
to
talking
hear.
about playing the parts, let's align it with sexual harassment in the workplace. But first, I would love to start off with sexual harassment in general. It's a situation where we see people their privacy, do I call it privacy at this point, or it's impeded upon sexually, whether in the workplace, whether at home, wherever it might be.
So let's just get the professional. Let's just get the professional angle. What is sexual harassment in a nutshell?
Firstly, it is an unwelcome sexual advance. There are words that I'll use, and those are the key words. When it is unwelcome, and you know, when they say sexual advance, when they say something is an advance, it means there is something about it that is uncomfortable. It's an unwelcome sexual advance in a space, in a workspace. It could be the marketplace, it could be in your neighborhood, it could be in school, which, if the person that this advance is being made to does not accept, can affect that person's ability to either work in that space, be employed in that space, or be promoted while working in that place. So whenever that happens, or where a decision to accept or to reject such advances then means that you may not get that position, or your life will be made a living hell while working in that space, then that becomes sexual harassment.
Okay, so you talked about advocacy earlier and sexual harassment now in the workplace. What are the best ways to go about cases whereby people have been sexually harassed by their colleagues, by their bosses in the workplace?
There are several things. I think the first thing any right-standing organization or company should do is to have a sexual harassment policy. If it's not embedded in your employee handbook already, it is one thing you have to do. The reason is simple. Many times we are not able to draw the line between jokes and when we become lewd in our attitudes. It can be the male, it can be the female that will be harassed. There are times you hear men say, you are just harassing me by your actions.
Let me just cut you here, Kate. I want us to open this up really well. what do we classify as sexual harassment in the workplace? Because someone can just come and tap you jokingly, and then, you know, because of who you are, and you're just straight, say like Success, for example, she's just straight, and oh, maybe the person doesn't mean any harm. So help us break it down so that people understand the difference.
Now, anything I do to you or you that you are not comfortable with automatically constitutes harassment. Right? And in the workspace, when we begin to talk of sexual harassment, there are statements, comments that are made about a woman's body. I think the bottom line here is, whenever something does not sound right, that thing is not right. I think if we have that behind our minds, it helps. Because you see your colleague at work, you can compliment her, oh, you look beautiful today. That's an innocent compliment. But when it goes beyond the you look beautiful, look at your shape, look at, and this person is not comfortable with that, that constitutes sexual harassment. Now, when we talk about sexual, there's physical harassment, which has to do with touch, groping, you know, touches that are not acceptable. There's also the verbal, which from the words you say, the kind of language you use. There are language you use for people who you are in that kind of arrangement with, but not for your colleagues. When you begin to use words that are explicit, that makes the person feel like the person is being undressed in public, that is sexual harassment. There are also the ones that are non-verbal. When every time you meet a colleague, that's when you are showing videos, pornographic materials, or you display pornographic materials so that people see it, or that particular person sees it, and you know it makes this person uncomfortable. That is sexual harassment. So at every given time you find yourself doing that, or somebody is doing that to you, some people start by grooming you into it. You know, a compliment here today, a compliment tomorrow, a tap on the shoulder, a holding in the hand, and some guys begin to scratch the palm of a woman. It starts. This person is not comfortable whenever you are there. But you continue because you think, if I just come straight onto her or onto him, he might just get the gist and back off. And then you just continue. And this person says, stop, this is not, don't do this, you know. And you keep doing that. That's sexual harassment.
And Judechi was saying something about, okay, how do you
deal with
it, like when it comes to advocacy. But I want to know something.
Please.
What if this sexual harassment is coming from somebody that, like, is at top management, somebody that you even report to? How do you handle cases where you seem powerless?
One thing you must understand with abuse in any form is a power play. The undertone of any form of abuse is that power play, where somebody thinks, I am stronger than you, I am more powerful than you, I am more influential than you, and on that note, I can do anything to you and with you, and you cannot do anything about it. So if you find someone who is in a place of authority, using their authority to demand sexual favors, either directly or indirectly, that is abuse in every sense of it. Now, how do you handle it? First things first, I'll start by speaking with women. Young women, old women, because now it doesn't cut across age, cuts across gender. It does not matter whether you are a married woman.
Is it within the workplace? Within
the workplace. Okay. It does not differentiate. Even if you are a pregnant woman, it does not differentiate. So first things first, what do you stand for? As an advocate, one thing I ask people, I tell people, I said, if you don't stand for anything, you will fall for anything. If the value of the work you are doing in that place is predicated upon your using your body to sustain it, that means your work has no value. So if that value exists, and you know the value you are bringing, and you know that if this person continues to pester me for sexual favors, it's affecting my psyche, it's affecting my work relationship with others, it's affecting my productivity. First things first is to even know that you are being harassed.
Okay.
So the moment you know that this is harassment, the next thing you want to do is to find out, are there remedies within that company, within that organization? Are there structures that can accept a complaint, receive a report? Yes, this person might be the highest authority, maybe the owner of the business, where you know that within that system, there is no way of holding that person accountable. You want to use external remedies.
And by external, what do you mean?
The Lagos State, for instance, where we are right now, Lagos State's criminal law of 2011 has provisions that prohibit sexual harassment, right? You can go to a lawyer, you can talk to a human rights advocate, you can go to an organization and speak with them, and then they would put you through the steps, the legal steps that you can take to get remedies. That is where you know that that organization or that company does not have a structure that will be able to address it. But where there is, I know that for standard organizations that have human rights policies and sexual harassment policies, there are steps to report. You have to report to maybe your immediate, if it is not your immediate supervisor that is actually doing that, you have to report to someone. Make sure you have evidence. Many times it looks like, so I must have to document how somebody is harassing me. But it is good you have evidence. There is also something I tell myself and everyone around me. I said, evil thrives in secrecy. If somebody is doing something that is not right to you and you keep it to yourself, if it's an office environment and for any reason you need to call the person out and report, and then there is a panel set up, you may not have witnesses.
True.
Because you have not confided in anybody and nobody have seen you rebuff that person openly, right? So if somebody does something and you just smile to it and just smile to it, and so people who are watching, they don't know how you are feeling. They might just assume that you are enjoying that uncanny attention, right? But if you have, at one time or the other, whether the person is the head of that company or not, after that person does not hold the key to your life, you tell the person, sir, ma, I'm sorry, I do not like this. And then you have someone who is a witness to it, who you can share with them. I don't like what this person is doing, right? If your life is not tied to that job, which I know that nobody's life is tied to any job, you take a walk. But then you don't take a walk and just ignore it. No. It is better as you're taking a walk, you're addressing it. If you have to call the person out, call the person out. If you have to take legal steps, take legal steps. If you have to report following the set down procedures in that organization, do so. But make sure also at no point have you given that person any form of leeway, because these people will come with all kinds of excuses. They can tell you, but when I did that, you didn't say anything, you were smart, they were there, they saw it.
Now I was going to address that part whereby you earlier mentioned how you can tell, you can say this is uncomfortable for me, but how does the person tell that you that is being harassed by them is actually uncomfortable?
It comes back to what I said at the beginning. If you don't know it is harassment, there is no way you can show discomfort. If you think that by just playing along, it keeps your job, you're encouraging that person.
Of course.
So if at any point you feel this has gone beyond the line of work and normal behavior, and you tell the person, maybe you start by telling the person first in private, I'm very sorry, ma or sir. The way you touched me the other time, I did not like. Yes, I did not like it. It didn't go down well with me. I would appreciate if you don't do that again. Or I do not like the language you use for me. And the person still tries it again. Maybe this time in the open, you now will like
open rebuff.
You know, and so somebody will definitely notice. But where every time the person does it, you are keeping it, because what ends up happening is that people have suffered serious mental health challenges as a result of every morning they're thinking, hey, I'm going back to this place again and this fellow will start again. So you're keeping it to yourself, you're killing yourself gradually. So you have to be able to know that this is not normal, this is not in line with the job I have been hired to do. You know, and so by the time you call that person out, the person does not, then you follow the steps to report. If that organization is purely in that person's hand and the person cannot, you can't do anything there, take legal steps. There are remedies, there are legal remedies, provisions, at least in the Lagos state law, criminal law, that protects you from such people. Okay?
Okay, so before we go, there is one dicey part that I'd like us to talk about. Right. What if we're very used to women being at the receiving end of sexual harassment? What if the roles were reversed and this man is being harassed by a woman, and then nobody should come for me, but most people say, a woman is even touching you, and don't you like it?
It is wrong. I said it at the beginning. When it's wrong, it's wrong. Whenever it feels wrong, it is wrong.
So what do you advise such a man to do?
You are a man, and you are being harassed by a woman. Call her out. Because we have all been brought into this belief that women are at the receiving end, they are the weaker ones, they are the ones who most likely are affected by this. But the truth is, the way we are raising our men, we are raising them to become inhuman in the sense that we make them not to feel this pressure. If a woman is coming onto you in a way that you know is uncomfortable, excuse me, ma, excuse me, my friend, excuse me, I don't like the way you are, I don't like it. And make it clear. Just the same way a woman will rebuff a man, rebuff the woman. Yes, women will feel like, now, I was only playing with it. That is not play. I don't like that kind of play. It's simple. If the person does not understand it in Queen's English, you go to your local language. No, seriously, the reason is simple. A lot of times people make a allure to things and make it look like it is nothing. It is not a joke. If it doesn't feel like a joke for me, it might be a joke for you. It is not a joke for me. And so you should be able to respect my boundaries, whether we are at work or at play. If it is consensual, that you touch me, I touch you back, it's a different thing. But the moment you bring your hand and I tell you hold it, you should hold it. If you don't want to hold it, then be ready, let's go through the law. Okay,
so finally, human rights advocacy and sexual harassment. Just tell us basically how you've put people through that have been sexually harassed.
In the course of my work, I have met people who have been sexually harassed, sexually abused, adults, children, and it is one and the same thing we say. If you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, run. Run. Speak up and run. Seek help. There are many times when people feel helpless because they think my livelihood is dependent on this. My ability to complete school is dependent on this. If you do not speak up, nobody will know. It is only when you speak up and ask for help that you will find out that help is actually around. So every time we talk about these things, what we are telling everyone is there is help. But you have to also be willing to access help, for help to come. This help will not come knocking on your door to ask you. I can't go to your door and ask you, are you being sexually harassed at work? Are you being, I will not ask. But if for any reason, and then I'll also tell you the flip side of all of this. Many times people get abused, get sexually harassed, and because of what they think society will think of them, they shy away from it. They do not want to talk about it. They want to hide. You are not helping yourself. You know, today we are talking of mental health. A lot of people's mental health are hanging in a balance. Some of it are as a result of some of these things that has happened. Their inability to speak to it, their inability to even face it, and look at themselves in the mirror and say, this thing happened to me, and I want to deal with it. So they keep shying away from it. They hide. So they become traumatized, and at every little thing, you see people outbursts everywhere. There's so much anger. There's so much pain. People are hiding under the makeup, under the nice clothes. And so any little trigger, they just go all the way and you're wondering, why is this person acting this way? If you dig deeper, you might find out that there has been cases, one case or the other somewhere, someplace that is still at the back of that person's mind that is... Thank you so much, Kay, for coming on today. Very insightful. Very, very insightful.
Speak up and run if you need, if things like this arise.
And do not encourage sexual harassment by either silence or pretending that you are okay with it.
Sure.
Are we good? Are we good, ma'am?
Good.
Yes, good students. So, and I know that people out there have learned as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me again.
We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll continue the rest of the show. Entertainment is coming your way soon.